Hey, welcome back to another episode of Open Lab. I'm Jeff, and joined as always by Kim. How you doing, Kim?
I'm doing well. How's everybody out there? Hope everybody's doing well too.
Yeah, I hope so. And if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, just feel free to comment, and we'll see those. And if you have questions during this Open Lab, we'll also see those as well and get them answered for you. But yeah, I remember our buddy Dalton. Remember when he moved to Jasper?
Oh, yeah. Do I? That
Those
was
boxes. Couldn't keep the flaps down.
Yeah.
Well, I've got these new nifty little tools now that are in the swag bag today
Look
for
at
our
that.
winners. They hold the flaps down. Look at that. So
That's
you don't have
really
to worry
cool.
about the fighting. So yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad we didn't have
So,
those for the Jasper.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
It would have been.
But I guess enough about us. Wish we should get right to it. I can see people filtering in now. So our guest today, very special guest, is Ashlyn Haddon from Ashlyn Haddon Insurance. And she's going to talk to us today about e-com insurance. She's been in the financial insurance industry for over 15 years, previously in the banking industry, and exclusively in insurance for over 7 years. So today she's going to talk about e-commerce insurance. It's quite the specialty, actually. So Ashlyn, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, I'm super excited about these box things. Do I get some?
Yeah.
They're cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get you some too.
We get excited.
Yeah. I'm sitting here like,
Maybe
oh my
one of
gosh,
these
those are so
fancy,
cool. I should have had those when I moved.
And then when you get tired and need refreshment, you can use an Inventory Lab tumbler.
There you go. Much better than just my water bottle.
Yeah, keep everything cold beverages cold, hot beverages hot.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it looks cool.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Now, I know, so for people who don't know, I have a background in insurance too. I was in insurance for a while at one of the big companies. I did more of the property and casualty and, did injury claims. But it was a real eye opener into insurance. And I know, of course, you have your own agency. And some of that was because, at the time, I understand, you felt like customers were being taken advantage of at renewal time, kind of, none of us really read our policies. And so
No
we
one.
don't, even those of us who are in the industry, right? So, trying to make sure that people really do understand the coverage they're getting, what choices they have, is really important. And again, I didn't do business insurance, but I know there's a big myth that insurance is super boring.
Right.
Everyone says, oh God, insurance, I'd rather talk about anything or learn about anything. And the truth is it's not boring at all. And anyone who's ever handled a claim could probably attest to that when you see what goes on, when people need the insurance, it's definitely not boring. So, I think we'll get into a little bit of that a little bit later, because I'm sure, we all have horror stories
Absolutely.
about the claims process, whether you're a customer or whether, you were a professional handling the claims. But obviously today we really want to focus on insurance coverage for Amazon sellers, why you need insurance, what you need. And we want to clear up a lot of the myths and misconceptions about business insurance in general. So before we really get into too many details about that, Ashlyn, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself personally and what you find so rewarding about helping e-commerce business owners.
Yeah. So as you said, I was in the financial industry first and kind of got into the insurance industry on accident. I was going into a big company, and I took the interview, and the gentleman said that this was a man's industry and that the men would outsell me every day. And I was like, I don't want to sell insurance, but now I do. So I'll take the job and I'll prove you wrong. And I kind of got into it on a whim. I was doing the same thing with you, like auto, home, and life insurance. Mm-hmm. And I decided to go out on my own. And one of my customers came to me and said, hey, I'm selling on Amazon. This was about almost 5 years ago now, and said, they're changing these rules. They want this type of liability policy and no one will help me. And I'm not gonna lie, in the beginning, I was like, I don't know anything about e-commerce insurance. I had no idea that Amazon even had third-party sellers. I thought Amazon sold everything that was on Amazon. I was like, insurance companies don't like you. It's not worth my time. And he kept bugging me and bugging me. And so I was able to help him. And then he came back and he's like, hey, I'm in this Facebook group. There's 15,000 of us in here that are going to need this policy at some point. Can I post your information? And then I was like, yeah, now it's worth my time. 15,000 people, sure. But call after call, all I heard was that nobody wanted to help them. Insurance companies were just rude to them. And it just, I don't know, it kind of just like tugged at my heart. Like, you guys are the redheaded stepchildren and nobody wanted to help you. And I kind of just felt this tug like, Ashlyn, help these people. And the more and more people I talked to, the more and more I fell in love. The more conferences I went to, the deeper Amazon sellers like dug into my heart. So it's just, I love helping people who can't get the help someplace else. And I just fell in love with the community. Like things like this, like, you guys don't have to do this. You don't have to help other people. I've never seen any other business like this that helps other businesses grow like this. So yeah, I'm in deep now. I live and breathe Amazon, and I've been over 50 conferences. I've spoken at over 30 conferences. I freaking even went to China with customers to see how they're sourcing. So like, I'm in. You've built my heart here. So
you're all in there.
That's
how we met. Was at a conference.
Live and breathe it now.
And I think there's something to be said too, especially for small business owners. I think that a lot of us, that resonates with a lot of us, because it could be anybody, right? It's not just a big corporation that needs coverage. It's anyone. It's your neighbor. It's your family member. It's anyone. And it always feels good to support, any kind of small business. So
absolutely,
that's really cool.
You guys are crazy, but I love it.
That's what I'm saying. Insurance may be boring to talk about if you've never been in the industry, but it's really not. And I think people, like, when you're educated about the coverages that you have, the coverages that you need, what your choices are, I think it also dispels a lot of the confusion, and it lets people understand it on a more basic level. Again, most people do not read through their policy. And sometimes, it comes as a big shock to them when they find out there's a certain exclusion for coverage, or that, there is, something that is just not covered under a particular coverage,
and that's why you need an agent who knows what you do. Yeah. You do. If you go talk to your neighborhood agent or these online people that are selling $300 policies, you have no idea what you're getting. So you're wasting your money if you don't have an agent that knows what you know.
Exactly. And how many times have you heard the term, someone saying to you, well, I have full coverage?
Right.
Like, there's no such thing as full. That's not a thing. That's not a term that we use, because to you, full coverage may mean one thing, but there's no universal term that means full coverage, because let's face it, that's why it always, like with, whenever I see insurance commercials on TV, sometimes I'll rate them based on, whether they resonate or what kind of information they give. I'm always so judgmental, but when I see, is it the Liberty Mutual that they say pay only for what you need?
Right.
And I just laugh. I go, that's every insurance company in the world. You only pay for what you want and what you have to have. And that's really that's not special to any one company. And of course, people are starting an Amazon business for the first time. How many people do you think just start selling? It doesn't really occur to them that they need insurance.
A lot of them. I mean, I have clients that are been on Amazon for 7, 8 years, 10 years, and they've never had insurance. So a lot of these people just come in here and they don't even understand that Amazon requires it. They don't understand that they've signed the terms of service that says, I have insurance and I'll continue to have insurance, and I'm going to indemnify Amazon if I'm in a lawsuit. People are like, I didn't even know I signed that. So you're not reading your insurance policy, but you're not reading the terms of service either.
Exactly. And that's actually a fantastic segue, because that was going to be my next question. What exactly does Amazon require from its sellers?
Yeah. So now, if you are a pro seller, you are in your terms of service. It says that you have insurance, that you will continue to have insurance. They want a general liability policy with product liability at $1 million. And then in that policy, they want you to indemnify Amazon, which means if you're pulled into a lawsuit and Amazon gets listed, they want your insurance policy to handle it, not theirs. They don't care about you. They want you to protect them because these are your products that you're putting on their site. So you need a general liability with product liability. And let me kind of break those down. So let's say I sell this pen. And I say, this pen is going to make you look 10 pounds skinnier just by holding it next to your face. And someone says, absolutely not. This pen makes me look fatter. Then they sue you for false advertisement. That's general liability. That's what you do or say as a business. Now, if I take this pen and I jab it in my eye and I poke my eye out, that's product liability. That's what your product does to harm someone else. So Amazon wants you to have both. Protect you for what you do or say as a business, and protect you for what your products do to harm someone else. So that's what's required. There's other things that we can talk about later, which are my other suggestions, but those are the two things that you have to have as a pro seller.
Okay. And obviously when Amazon started opening up, to third-party sellers, and I mean, obviously that changed a lot of things.
Right.
And I imagine insurance was no different. So I'm curious what some of the biggest changes that you saw in the industry were. And prior to that, was there really any kind of decent insurance coverage for anyone who sold online?
The insurance companies, it's just so new. Insurance companies really didn't know how to rate them and where to put them. So if you went to like your neighborhood insurance agent, they would just put you as a retail store with no operations online. So really, probably not.
Right.
But now at least these insurance carriers know what e-commerce is. Now, again, it's still very, very new. They're still learning the claims and things like that. So I do think it's going to evolve and change. But, we've started to build relationships with these carriers and get the policies that are actually right for our customers. So we're adding the policy or adding coverage for online retail. We're adding coverage for inventory and inventory off premise and things like that. So as we continue to grow and move down this line, we're going to add more coverages, and the carriers are going to know a little bit more and be able to make a better policy. But it's a heck of a lot better now than it was 5 years ago.
Oh, I bet. And it really is. It's kind of constantly evolving. It reminds me of when people started listing places on Airbnb.
Yeah.
And the insurance industry didn't know what to do with it. And a lot of
don't know
them,
what to do with that.
They still don't know, and they won't touch it. A lot of them won't even touch it. They won't touch short-term rentals.
And these like car share things, you can list your car to rent out for like an hour to somebody, not even just like renting it for a week or so, but you can just park it on the side of the road and someone can come rent your car for a couple of hours. Yeah, they have no idea what they're doing. Yeah,
exactly. And it's funny because, we know that technology now moves at such a rapid speed. Things change so quickly. And the insurance industry is going to have to find a way to keep up because things are going to keep changing. Obviously, when it comes to technology, selling online, different, like you said, like rideshare, things like that, it's definitely happening at a rate that the industry is finding, I think, very difficult to keep up. I think whether they'll ever get to a point where it depends, because as soon as they probably figure this out, then the next new thing will come along.
Exactly.
It's really tough, especially for an insurance. And the insurance industry has been around for much longer, obviously, than any of this technology. It's so new. So speaking of things evolving, changing, I understand there's been some big changes in the past few months. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So in the past, like we said, Amazon is saying that it's required to have it if you are a pro seller. But majority of people kind of just skated under that rule because Amazon wasn't they were not policing it. They weren't asking for proof. Well, in the last couple of months, Amazon has come out and started saying, all right, guys, I need my proof. They're asking for that certificate of insurance. And they came out and said, if you are $10,000 for 3 consecutive months, you're going to have to prove it. So that's kind of now where they're just going to, this is their starting point to start looking and policing these certificates of insurance. So once you've passed that 3rd month of consecutive sales of $10,000 or more, Amazon is going to start, they're going to start hounding you. And we've seen a couple of posts online. Now, majority of our customers, since we provide that certificate of insurance at Bind, we aren't seeing a whole lot of that because we've already submitted that to Amazon. But we've seen customers come out and say, hey, I got 15 days to provide this, or they're suspending me. And then just the other day, like Thursday or Friday, I saw a post of a gentleman who said, I got suspended and Amazon is holding my $150,000 in funds until I provide the certificate of insurance.
Wow.
So they are suspending. And once they suspend, they're holding your funds. So they're not playing around now. I think they've been in so many lawsuits lately that they're like, all right, we got to nip this in the bud. We've got to figure out how to get these certificates of insurance and start policing this. So I suggest don't skirt the system. They're going to find out, and then you're going to get suspended, and now you're going to have to try to hire a suspension specialist to get unsuspended, right, so you can get your money back.
So when it comes to getting that insurance certificate, so let's say I'm an Amazon seller and I've been selling for 6 months, and obviously this is a very unlikely scenario, but let's just say even after 6 months, I'm suddenly having consecutive, $10,000 in sales. 3 consecutive months. And Amazon says to me, I need proof, and I don't have it. If I were to go to your agency or any insurance agency, can you write that insurance and then retroactively date it? Like, can it retroactively cover let's say the first 2 months that I was selling at that rate?
Cannot. So insurance starts the day that you pay for it. So that's, again, if you don't have it now, get it now. But Amazon is accepting that as enough to get you unsuspended. So as long as you get the insurance, that's what they want you to do. So you could get unsuspended if you get the policy before. Now, my suggestion always is get your policy before you ship your first item, because you have no idea if that first item is the one that's going to cause harm. We had a client who just ended up shipping something. It was FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, was shipped to the customer's house. The dude tripped over the box and broke his clavicle and broke his hip. He sued UPS, he sued Amazon, and he sued my client, who was the third-party vendor. Mm-hmm. It was $32,000 to defend him from this lawsuit. He did nothing wrong.
Yep.
He didn't do anything. He literally it was fulfilled by Amazon, and the dude tripped over the box.
Right.
So it's like, you don't even have to do anything wrong to be pulled into a lawsuit, and now you're $30-some thousand in debt if you didn't have an insurance policy.
Exactly. And imagine that, spending that kind of money. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you lose the lawsuit. You could win it, but
absolutely,
like you said, you still have $32,000 in legal fees that you've just spent to ensure that you don't have to pay anything else. And look, there are people out there, and you and I both know this, there are people out there that know how to work the system. If there's any kind of incident, there are people out there that are just extremely litigious, and it happens. And if people think that it can't happen to them, I can tell you from my experience, it can happen to anyone. And
on your first shipment or
absolutely. And the amount of money that it costs to get coverage is so worth it, because it's not nearly as much as people may think. You can get, we actually have on our home, which not, it's not a luxury house by any means. It's just a regular house, but we have a pool, and we thought, for the amount of money that an umbrella policy costs, it provides us $2 million in coverage for liability. So if anybody gets hurt on my property and decides to sue me, that policy will cover us, and hopefully we wouldn't lose our house. And it costs, it's next to nothing.
Pennies a day.
Pennies a day. And that's exactly right. So, when we say that, you really should have the insurance, you really should. It is so worth it. And I think a lot of people, it's difficult to part with that premium, right? They say, well, I've been paying my premium for 20 years and nothing's ever happened. That money's just gone out the window. That's not true. You're lucky if nothing happens. That's great. The insurance premium is there for when something does happen.
Right.
If nothing ever happens, I mean, to me, small price to pay.
Like, look at this situation with the box. The guy's policy was $512 for the year. He was about seven months or so into the policy. So you paid $500 and you got $32,000 worth of coverage.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
so worth it.
You're stupid not to do it.
Not to do it. It really is just, yeah, I can't. It is not even that I want to go. I mean, I don't want to go back in insurance, but if there was one thing I took away from it, it's to tell people genuinely, I have no skin in the game anymore. Yeah. And I was just handling claims, get the insurance coverage. And, I'm sure you and I'm sure we could go, we could go all day talking about, our stories from the trenches. So tell us about some other claims that you've seen. Yeah. Similar to
another big one that I like to tell, because she's a private label seller, and her premium to the normal person would be expensive. But she was selling those, like, you put them in your door frame and tighten them, and you do like pull-ups and
the exercise bars,
type things. And she did everything right. Like, we looked at warning labels and how to install, and she had even YouTube videos on how to install it correctly, like everything. She did everything right. And the person ended up installing it incorrectly. But she still was pulled into the lawsuit and found liable. They ended up settling at $650,000 for her settlement. And her policy was like $10,000 a year-ish. But when we were going through and quoting her, she's like, Ashlyn, this is I can't afford $10,000 a year. And we broke down what she was selling by units. And I was like, for 52 cents more a unit, you don't want to protect yourself from a claim. And she was like, all right, now that you break it down, 52 cents a unit is fine. I can do that. I can raise my prices a little, or I can eat the 52 cents. And it was her second year that she ended up having her policy, and this claim came up. And, I have a check over here because we made one of those big checks when we, just because I was so excited that the carrier paid out $650,000 to her. And she's like, Ashlyn, you have no idea what you have done. Like, I was ready to walk away and no, I don't need this insurance. This is too expensive. And we broke it down and convinced her, this is cheap. This is cheap. And then she ends up with $650,000 claim, and, ended up paying 2 years, about $20,000. But she's like, if I didn't have this, I would have gone out of business.
But imagine that. I mean, $10,000 as opposed to $650,000. I mean, no reasonable person would ever be able to cover that amount without an insurance policy. And again,
I would have lost my house. I would have lost my business. I would have lost everything. There's no way I could afford this. So
right. And that's what people have to remember when you're an Amazon seller. I think most of them, a lot of people are doing this right out of their home. That is their place of business. Yeah. So imagine if that's what's on the line when you get sued. I mean, your livelihood and your home and anything else that you have. And I know that sometimes the premium up front, I know it hurts a little. I know we all hate making insurance, payments. And I know we all hate it when we have to deal with a claims department. But to me, that's a minor inconvenience compared to something like that.
Another point you said, a lot of us work from home. And one of the myths that we hear all the time is they're like, hey, I have an LLC, or I have homeowners insurance, so I'm protected. Here's the deal, guys. Homeowners is homeowners. It's for your personal. Business is business. Unless you can explain to your homeowner's insurance that you have 50,000 toothbrushes because you only use your toothbrush one time and then you chuck it.
Then throw it away.
No, it's for a business, and they're not going to pay a claim. So if you have a theft or a fire in your house, they're not going to pay for your inventory. Exactly. Personal, business is business, guys.
Yep, that is right. And that's something that people have to be absolutely certain about. So I have been noticing a couple questions that I figure we'll just go ahead and throw
Sure.
in. So Ruben is asking if business insurance is tax deductible.
Yep.
Okay.
100%.
All right. And so I think you pretty much already answered this question. Travis asked, so should we wait until that 3-month 10K mark or do it right away?
I would do it right
Do
away,
it right away.
Travis. I mean, you never know when somebody's going to sue you. They could sue you for tripping over a box. They could sue you for a t-shirt giving them a rash. I mean, people are, and let's talk about this real quick. In the last 17 months, insurance claims have gone up. And why that happens is when the economy is down, people are always looking for a quick way to make money. They want to make money fast. And a good way to do that is to sue somebody. So we're seeing an uptake in claims for, again, silly stuff because people are trying to find a quick way to make a buck. So do it now, don't wait.
Right. And that's just it. And like you said, when you brought up your client, she did everything right.
Right.
She still got sued and she lost. That's scary. That's really scary.
Because they couldn't prove that the gentleman installed it incorrectly.
Right. Because how do
you
you prove
we all
that
know that he
happened?
had to have, because she gave him every instruction on how to do it the right way.
Yeah. And unless somebody videotaped him incorrectly installing it and then somehow was willing to share that with the court. Right. Yeah, it's just one of those perfect storm situations, unfortunately.
Do you remember back in the day where there was a guy who was breaking into someone's house and fell through the skylight?
Yes.
And the robber sued the homeowner and won. Yeah,
he won.
Like, you're breaking into this guy's house.
I mean, he still went to jail.
Yeah.
but he won. Oh, yeah, we all knew that. We all knew that claim story. And it was absolutely true. Somebody really did sue. He might not have been the only one too, Ashlyn. There might have been a few of them. It's crazy, right?
It's crazy. You don't have to do anything wrong to be pulled into a lawsuit.
You don't. I mean, and the education that I got in insurance was really invaluable because I remember just buying our house and seeing the pool and saying to my husband, we need to make sure that we keep that fence up or maybe even put a bigger one up. We ended up putting a privacy fence up. I'm like, it's an attractive nuisance. Yeah. And for those of you who don't know what an attractive nuisance is, it's something like a pool or something on your property that, let's say, a kid walking by or teenagers, whoever, sees it and thinks, oh, that looks cool, and wanders into your yard. If you don't have not only a fence, but some kind of like gate with a locking mechanism, and something happens, God forbid, to someone, you can actually, they can sue you for that.
And they probably still can sue you even if you have the fence and the locking mechanism and a cover and everything.
Just do what I do. Never let anyone in your neighborhood use your pool. That was our rule. We've literally never let anyone, any of the kids or even adults in our neighborhood use our pool. Family and closest friends only. Yeah. People that we know won't sue us, or that we're relatively sure won't sue us. So yeah. But yeah, it's really, it's something to be taken seriously. And especially now that Amazon is cracking down on this. Yeah. I'd hate to see somebody's, their funding and their actual inventory being basically held hostage. Yeah. And then you're scrambling and nobody wants to be in that position. So, people definitely get that insurance coverage now. Don't wait and don't wait
for Amazon to ask for it.
Don't roll the dice and go, oh, well, chances are Amazon won't get to mine. Okay. I mean, here I am. I'm a regular person. I never thought I'd get, audited by the IRS, and it happened one year. So you know what I mean? I was always that person. Yeah.
Oh no, girl.
I was always that person who's like, it's never going to happen. It turned out fine, but it happens.
Yeah.
It definitely happens. Now, Ruben is also asking, e-com insurance covers all platforms I sell on, i.e. eBay, Amazon, etc.
Good question. So that's another myth that we hear a lot is people like, well, I need, I sell on 6 different platforms, so I need 6 different policies and I can't afford that. No. Insurance covers your business entity. So if you have one business entity that you sell on 5 different platforms, you need one policy that we extend to all 5 platforms. Now, if you've set up ABC company and then XYZ company, and they're 2 separate business entities filing 2 separate business taxes, then yes, you would need separate policies. So we don't insure the platform you sell on, we insure your business entity and the things that your business does.
Makes
so if
sense.
you're filing one tax return, one
business.
policy.
Yep, just like car insurance, at least in New York, follows the car.
Yeah.
So in other words, it doesn't matter who's driving your car. It doesn't matter where you go. You could go out of state. Insurance follows the car. So it's attached to the car.
Insurance follows your business.
And in this case, it follows business. So speaking of myths, we've already talked about a couple of them. What are some of the other myths that you hear a lot about that people seem to believe?
Oh my goodness, there's so many. So the LLC thing is we hear a lot. They're like, hey, I have an LLC, so I don't need insurance. I'm like, all right, pick up the phone and call your LLC. I don't know my number. Exactly. You can't pick up the phone and call your LLC to defend you in a lawsuit. Yes, I completely agree. You should have an LLC or corporation or some type of protection, but that protection isn't going to defend you in a lawsuit. So
absolutely,
it's your LLC and your insurance. Another myth that we hear, we hear that I don't sell anything risky all the time. And again,
anything could be risky.
It doesn't matter what you sell, or like, I just sell books and nothing can happen from a book. So like one day after somebody told me that, I went online and started looking, and I was pulling up all kinds of claims for books. Like there was a claim for somebody saying that he ended up getting like asbestos from an old book. There was a claim for a book falling off a shelf and impaling this guy's head, and they sued the manufacturer and the third-party seller from a book falling off a shelf. I mean, it's crazy. Everyone's like, I won't be sued. I don't sell anything. Here's the deal. It doesn't matter what you sell. You absolutely can be pulled into a lawsuit.
Can be sued. Yep, absolutely. Yep. And looks like Agatha is asking a question we did address. So does the insurance go into effect immediately after purchasing? It does. Yes.
Yes. So you can set it up to, as soon as you pay, it would be effective. So we can't insure a burning building. So you can't like call me and say, hey, Ashlyn, I just got pulled into a lawsuit. Can you issue my policy today? It's not going to happen. Right. Insurance would go in effect for the sales of the day that you start your policy. Right. So, 1201. So technically the next
right.
day.
So if there's it's just like car insurance. If there's if you don't have car insurance and you have an accident on the 20th, and you go to the agent, say on the 21st, and say, I need insurance. Well, guess what? That accident you just had, not covered.
Nope.
So, and also another question from Agatha, do I need to be an LLC to have insurance, or can a sole proprietor have it too?
Absolutely. You can do it as a sole proprietor, and you can issue a policy as a sole proprietor and then be applying for your LLC, and then come back to me and say, hey, Ashlyn, I got that LLC now, and we can change that policy change the name to your LLC without having to cancel and rewrite it. So that's absolutely great. Get it now, and then we can change it as you change and grow also. And kind of with the changing and growing too, a lot of our sellers come in as brand newbies, RA, OA, and wholesale. And then they're like, okay, Ashlyn, I want to start dabbling in some private label. What do you think? So we absolutely can grow with you. If you guys want to start as a small wholesaler, or just a small retail arbitrage, the policies for that are, don't quote me because it changes, but like $500-ish a year. And then you can go and grow into private label, where that cost of that could be more expensive. But you're looking fairly close to $500 a year just to start a base policy.
Spread it out over 12 months, and
absolutely
it's a minimal cost. And and also I want people to know too that, you do not have to have any insurance experience. You don't have to know what all the policy, coverages mean. When you have a good insurance agent, they will. So basically you just need to go to them and say, this is what I've got. Tell me what to do. And a good insurance agent is going to be able to give you all the coverage you need, explain it, answer all of your questions. So you do not have to be an insurance expert. All you have to do is tell them what your situation is.
Make sure your agent is an e-commerce expert.
And yes, absolutely. That's hugely important. It's like, It reminds me of just if you're going to an attorney for something, there are a lot of attorneys out there, but let's say you need someone who specializes in one particular area, whether it's real estate or whether it's elder law, you really need to find an agent that, let me put it this way. If you go to an agent and you have an e-commerce business and that agent is kind of like, oh, well, it's all new to us, then you probably want to go to someone else. Go to someone.
You wouldn't want to go to a real estate attorney for your divorce.
Exactly. Exactly. You really, there's a lot of intricacies as far as coverages, exclusions, and for everyone's situation, because everyone's situation is going to be unique, so I think it's really important. That's a good point to make sure I
just posted today, I had a conversation with one of these carriers that are targeting e-commerce sellers, and they're targeting we have a $300 a year policy. Come on over to us. We'll take care of you. And I ended up calling and I was like, I'm looking at your policy and there's no product liability. So what are you actually covering? And I posted the little snippet of our conversation and they're like, we don't have product liability. And I was like, so if I'm an e-commerce seller and I'm selling a product and my product harms somebody, you're not going to cover that? And they're like, no, we're not going to cover that. And I'm like, you're out here bringing people over to you and come on over. We got your back, but you don't.
$300.
That's for $300. So one, you get what you pay for. If you want a $300 policy, you're going to get $300 worth of coverage. It's not what you need. And you can't talk to somebody there. You don't know what you're getting. You're hoping that you get the right thing. So just be careful when you're out there just doing things online. For your listeners, if you guys have a policy and you just want to say, hey, Ashlyn, do I have the right policy? Say, hey, I heard you on the podcast. Here's my policy. Will you review it for me? I absolutely will review it for you and say, hey, this is the gaps that you're missing. This is what I suggest you ask for. Or no, this policy looks good. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions like that. I want you guys to make sure that you have the right coverage. You don't have to go through me, but I want you to have the right stuff.
Absolutely. That's important. I have to give a quick shout out to Kim McCaffrey. Hi, Kim.
Hi,
and
Kim.
She says, hi, Ashlyn. So good to see your face. Miss you and thank you for all you do.
You
for anyone who's ever watched any of our webinars, Kim used to work for Inventory Lab. So, she was wonderful. So I feel like I stepped into some big shoes, taking over for OpenLab. So
I miss our conferences, Kim.
And just let's see, a couple more questions. So Gloria Marie is asking, since it covers the entity, would it cover Amazon sales made on all Amazon platforms, including Mexico and Canada?
Okay, so it will cover Mexico and Canada automatically, but other countries, then you would need to add a endorsement for all the rest of the countries, which it's called worldwide coverage. It's a couple $100 more a year, but then it would cover every platform that you're selling on. So if you're selling on .eu, things like that, I highly recommend adding that for an additional couple $100.
Okay, great. And she also says, I forget the coverage term, but does Amazon require us to cover product that is in our care? For instance, products stolen out of my car during sourcing.
Yes. So Amazon doesn't care about you, but it's not required. But you can add inventory coverage to your general liability policy. So you wouldn't need a separate policy. We would just add it to that general liability policy.
Okay, great. And Bonnie M has a question. If you don't have any claims, but we're not covered for, say, a month while selling, is it possible to buy retro coverage, no existing claims? So we did cover this. Unfortunately, coverage would not be retroactive. It would be from the day that the coverage is bound. So it's bound, like you said, by 12:01 a.m. of the date that the coverage binder is put together. So, and then Catherine just made a comment just saying, I bought the extra and it was cheap. And again, that really is true, that you can get a lot of coverage for anything, not just your business. I mean, if you really look into things, whether you need it for your small business, whether you need it for your home, your car, you can get extra coverage for relatively little money.
Yeah.
Usually the bulk of the coverage is going to be what's required, and that's going to be the bulk of the cost. And then those extra coverages typically are not very much more in most situations. Right. Travis also had a question saying that he has an LLC in progress. Does he have to wait for his EIN? Or
no, so we can issue as a sole proprietor. And then once you get your LLC and your EIN, then we can flip that policy for you.
Okay, great. And so what else, just in general, what else should sellers know?
So inventory coverage is not necessarily covered unless you add it. That's another big one that we hear again, if your inventory is in your house, in your garage, things like that, you have to have a separate endorsement. Another thing is a lot of you use 3PLs, third-party warehouse and logistics companies. Majority of them don't have coverage for your products. I insure over 50 warehouses, and 2 of them actually have coverage for your products. So my first suggestion is call your 3PL and say, hey, do you have coverage for my products when they're in your care, custody, and control? And if they say yes, then ask for proof. Ask for that certificate of insurance to prove that they have that coverage. And if they don't, again, you can add it to your policy. We can extend coverage to the third-party warehouse and give you that peace of mind that your products are covered. Even if they say yes, I don't know, I'm a worrywart because I deal with claims all day. Even if they say yes, they can stop paying that tomorrow, and then you have no coverage again. So if it's in your control, it's added to your policy, at least it's covered, especially if you've got $50, $100, $150,000 worth of inventory. And if that just ups and disappears, are you going to be financially strapped? And if the answer to that is yes, then you need to add it to your policy. It could be $200 more a year to cover that kind of stuff, and you've got the peace of mind that knowing that it's actually covered and that you have control of that.
Exactly. And again, just a reminder for most people, most people can pay. You just pay monthly installments. It's not. Insurance is not. I mean, it sounds like a lot up front. If we were to just tell you, what a premium costs, it sounds like a lot. But again, remember that you're making monthly payments. I mean, you can
majority
pay up front.
Yeah. Now, if you go high risk, or if you're selling a high risk product that we have to go to the market for, a surplus lines market, those do have to be paid in full. Now, we do have relationships with finance companies that can do a premium finance for that, but it's like interest rates like a credit card. So potentially you might have to pay in full if you're doing something super high risk or something private label high risk.
Can you give an example of something that would be high risk? Yeah.
The biggest items that we're seeing high risk, anything that goes on the body, in the body, for a pet, for a child, or exercise equipment right now. Those are the top 5 items that we're seeing bunches of claims. For some reason, we like our kids and our pets, and we sue a lot over that.
We buy a lot of stuff for them, don't we?
And for some reason, with all of this COVID stuff, the exercise equipment, because people are exercising more at home, are having huge claims. Like we've seen those resistance bands are having a crap ton of claims. The pole bars are having claims. Yeah. So anything in that field. On the body, so you're talking like private label makeup, supplements, hair stuff, all of those kinds of like beauty items are huge. Like we had this claim, I'll tell you one more claim real quick. And the lady came to me, she did the like baby Bjorns or whatever. It's like the fabric you wrap around your body and you stuff your kid in it.
Yep.
And she's like, Ashlyn, I don't understand why this is so expensive. It's just a yard of fabric. And I'm like, this yard of fabric is responsible for holding a 15-pound child 5 feet off the ground. What if the Velcro breaks? What if the child slips and falls? Like, what if you slip and fall? Like, I get it. That's a yard of fabric, but it's responsible for this child's safety. So it's going to be expensive.
Absolutely.
So just remember what you're selling and how it can be used and how it can be misused.
Yeah, exactly. This is a great question. We've had a couple comments about this, but to clarify, can you take care of the insurance needs regardless of where the business or person is located, or are you limited in the geographical areas you can service?
So I'm licensed in every single state, so I can take care of anyone in the country.
That's fantastic. Yeah, because that's not always the case.
Yeah.
And you do have to be licensed in states, right? I mean, it's
Absolutely.
just
Each
like
individual state. Yep.
When
and then I have to be
claims
licensed as a entity, then I have to be licensed as a person, and then my team has to be licensed. So it's a big feat to make sure that we can help everyone everywhere.
That's great. And so what exactly would you recommend just as basic coverage to any Amazon seller?
Yeah. So when we're looking for new clients, we have like an intake form, and we ask you the basic questions, looking for what you're doing. We're looking if you're drop shipping. We're looking to see if you're using your personal vehicle for business use. We're looking to see if you've got inventory in your home or inventory at a third-party location. We're asking if you're shipping overseas, those kinds of things. So my basic, hey, this is the answer to the question, is it depends. It depends on what you're doing, how you're sourcing, what your sales are, where you're sending things to. So we look to make sure we see what your risks are. We build a policy around that. We give you the quote and say, hey, this is what we think you need based on how you answer the questions. If you want it, great. If you want to take things off, that's fine too, but at least you know where your risks are, and how we suggest that you protect them. So, but basic general liability, product liability, and I always say cover your inventory, because majority of you guys are keeping inventory like crazy. Even if it's there for a couple of days, if you had a fire that day and you lost $50,000 in inventory, it's gonna hurt. So it just depends on what you're doing and what your risks are.
And that's great that you're not just taking a one size fits all approach, that you are tailoring each policy to everyone's specific situation. Because you wouldn't want a one size fits all, which is where some of those other policies that you mentioned kind of come into play. Because that's kind of what they are. They're just like, we're just going to give everyone the same basic coverage no matter. And if you don't know any better, you don't know any better. So Emily wants to know, Ashlyn, if you provide a way to update sellers with changes that might affect their policies. Like, do you have a weekly newsletter or anything like that?
We don't have a weekly newsletter, but we've got a Facebook page that I'm on all the time. We're always going live. We're always putting updates on, even if it's not affecting our physical customers, but it's just industry knowledge. And then we update that too. And then we have a CRM system that if it's like breaking news kind of thing, that we can do like a mass text blurb too. So we've only had to do that twice, but
that's great.
It's there if we need it.
I know some people have very specific questions about, pricing and everything. And again, because Ashlyn takes a very tailored approach, which is appropriate, I would definitely encourage, if you have specific questions or need specific numbers, reach out to her directly. That's not something that she can just answer quickly here, because it really depends on a lot of different factors.
But base policy is about 500. So if that gives you an idea how
gives people
how cheap it can be.
An idea.
Yeah.
Awesome. And how do you see, we talked about it, it's kind of hard to predict, but how do you see insurance for e-commerce evolving, let's say over the next 5 years?
I think we're going to continue to kind of just break down what kind of coverages you need. We haven't talked about it yet, but when I first got into the industry and insurance and e-commerce, I was working with a company to provide suspension insurance. And now that didn't end up sticking around for the long term, but we are working on it again. So I think we're going to evolve in finding your pain points and finding a solution for those. So the suspension insurance kind of situation, I feel like it's going to come back around. You guys come to me and say, hey, I'm getting suspended and my inventory is getting tossed in the trash. Can you provide coverage for that? That kind of thing. So as we continue to grow and learn your pain points and figure out different types of coverages that we can have for you, I'm in the trenches with you guys. tell me your pains, and we're going to find you a solution. So I think we're going to evolve with you guys and grow with you as you guys continue to grow and have different insurance needs than the normal brick and mortar.
That's great. And like we said, over time, I think the insurance industry hopefully will catch up to some of the changes that happen all the time, because that's what's going to be needed. I mean, customers are going to continue to need different coverages as their businesses evolve too. So, Ashlyn, thank you so much. This was. I have to admit,
one quick question for you, though, Ashlyn.
Sure.
Oh, what's that?
All right. So you mentioned suspensions earlier on, and you said that, when you get the insurance, then you can get off a suspension, but that's not really something you even want to deal with, right? Because getting off suspension is a pain. I've read
and expensive, I hear.
Yeah. So it's always better to just prevent that from happening. I would say bottom line here, right?
Absolutely.
Definitely. Take care of things on the front end. Don't like I said, because then you're scrambling, and like you said, then the process you'd have to go through to get unsuspended, you're losing money every single day that happens.
Absolutely.
Every day. So but again, thank you. I mean, I could keep talking. I mean, like I said, I don't necessarily miss insurance. Sometimes I do, and I kind of love being able to talk about this stuff, and it's great to educate people, especially with insurance, because it can seem like such an overwhelming thing. But that's why there are people like you to break it down for us. So
find me on Facebook. Like, you guys can friend me on my personal page. I'm on there all the time. Message me if you guys are looking at picking up a different type of product and you want to know what I think, if it's insurable or not. Feel free to reach out. I'm very, very accessible all the time. I'm on Facebook probably way too much. So
that was the other question I had is, what's the best process? Just go to your website?
The best process to start the application is absolutely through our website. We've streamlined the application. It takes like not even 5 minutes to do. But if you have specific questions about your policy, or if you want me to review your current policy, email's probably the best. Service at Ashland Haddon Insurance. Again, just mention that you heard me on the Inventory Lab podcast or webinar, and you want me to look at it, then I absolutely will look at it for you.
That's awesome. And just remember, everyone, all 50 states. So it doesn't matter where you're operating out of, as long as you're within those 50 states, Ashland can write a policy for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't want to be underinsured. Our mutual friend Frank Tigman, he ran into some issues there at the Double Deuce when he didn't have enough insurance. So,
yeah. When the place got trashed, I mean, it was he was definitely underinsured. It was rough.
So, Ashland, can you stick around for the swag giveaway? Or
absolutely.
Awesome.
All right. So we've been entering people as they've made comments. And so our swag bag winner, number 1, is Ruben Flores. So Ruben, congratulations.
All right, Ruben.
Woo!
Yeah, just open up a ticket in Inventory Lab, or send us an email, support@inventorylab.com. And let us know that you were one of the winners of the swag bag, and send your address so we can mail that out to you. And then, let's see, our next one is Nate Hubner. Hope I pronounced your name right, Nate. So yeah, just send us an email and give us your address. We'll get that mailed out to you. And Ashlyn, you're also getting one. As a small token of thanks for joining us today.
Is the box thing in there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the flapjack?
Yeah, flapjacks. Yeah.
Flapjacks?
Yeah. FLAP, and then it's JAX. So,
oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah. Those at all the conferences, we go to the same conferences, and so that's always the first thing that gets taken off the table. At least our table is the flapjacks. They're just gone the first day. So I know
I can't wait for conference season again. So excited.
Won't it just be nice to be around people?
Yes. To go from like 12 a year to nothing, I'm just stir crazy.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy.
I think we all are. Yeah.
I miss my ecom family.
Aww.
And then our grand prize winner, $50 gift certificate to Amazon, is
I was saying Agata,
Yes,
and I apologize, Agata, if I'm
apologies.
butchering your name.
Yeah.
Congrats!
Yeah. Reach out to us at support again and just let us know that you won, and we'll get that sent out to you via email. But any closing words, Ashlyn?
No, thank you guys so much for having me, and
Thank you for
I
being
really
on.
appreciate the time. It was great.
It was fun.
Yeah,
It flew
thank
by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's been 50 minutes already. Jeez.
I know, right? Oh, good. We said Agata's name the right way. Yay.
Oh, okay. Good. Whew. I always worry. You never know.
I know.
That's why email is best. Oh, I can spell it correctly. I don't have
This is
to.
right.
All right.
Hope
Well,
everything's well, Kim.
yeah. All right. Ashlyn, I almost called you Agata because that's what who we've been talking about.
I'll take the $50 gift card. Don't worry.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for today's episode. So again,
All right.
thanks, Ashlyn. Contact
Thank you.
Ashlyn. There's her email, or just go to ecom with 1m.insure. And I think I have that. There it is. And she can get you set up. So thanks
Yep.
for joining us, everybody. We appreciate
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.